Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today the Tuono 660 build continues. Now, we've obviously made some significant improvements already to this 2023 Aprilia Tuono 660 factory, everything down to the super simple stuff like just moving the turn signals from the side of the bike and integrating them into the headlight, removing the reflectors from the brake caliper, to the little bit more significant modifications such as adding a bunch of maxi carbon fiber, putting this super cool teen top exhaust on this bike that looks like the OEM exhaust, even down to the triangular exits here, but is much lighter and sounds much better than the stock one. Now, when we change to that teen top exhaust and flash the bike, the issue that we're trying to address today, or I guess finish addressing today, did get significantly better. And that issue is the power drop off on these bikes. So known issue with these bikes, but right around 5,500 to 7,000 RPM or so, you get this, especially in stock form, it's a significant power drop off. Right in the meat of your power band, right where you spend most of your time with a bike with this type of power, you get this just and then it'll wind back up again. Of course, the top end on these bikes is pretty decent. So this is what we're gonna do to try to at least mask that issue, and that's go to a 45 tooth super light rear sprocket. This is a steel rear sprocket, it's not aluminum. We're going to keep the stock Tuono 660 factory 16 tooth front sprocket, but go to a little bit lighter one. Again, that is steel as well. And then we're going to go to a lightweight rear brake rotor. Just so you guys know, the Tuono 660 factories come with a 16:43 final drive gear ratio, whereas the rest of the RS660s and the base Tuono 660 comes with a 17:43 final drive gear ratio. So basically, if you also have a Tuono 660 factory, if you go with this setup, you'll be going +2 in the rear and ±0 in the front. It's gonna remain the same. If you have any other 660 variant, like a normal RS660, actually I think some of the limited RS660s had a different gear ratio. Like I think some of the Stars and Stripes ones had different gear ratios, but generally speaking, if you have an RS660, you would be going, if you go with this setup, you would be going down 1 in the front and +2 in the rear. Now you're probably wondering, okay, how did I land on 16 tooth in the front and a 45 in the rear? Well, this is what was recommended to me by AF1 Racing. I told AF1 about the concept of this build and that it is a budget build, so I didn't want to have to change the chain. So they said if you go up +2 in the rear, you should be able to use the stock chain. Of course, chain wear is a thing, and I did talk to AF1 about this, and they did say that going to a 16:45 setup, it is going to increase your chain wear, but they said it's not going to be noticeable. It's not a myth, it's real, but for especially a street setup, it's not really going to be noticeable. And they said if I was worried about chain wear, then the gear ratio to go with would be 17:47, and that would achieve basically the same final drive here, but it's much better on chain wear. But the problem with that is you have to replace the chain because it's not long enough. So what AF1 said is, hey, try this setup. You are gonna lose a little bit of weight, and we are going to weigh the new sprockets in comparison to the old sprocket. We are going to weigh the rear brake rotor. On my RSV4, I put a lightweight rear brake rotor, and I think if I remember right, it was about 11 ounces lighter than the stock one, which is pretty good considering its rotational mass and unsprung and whatnot. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. Let's tear down the Tuono 660 factory. Everything is torn down now, so let's go ahead and weigh everything and see what type of weight savings we're getting from changing the front sprocket, rear sprocket, and the rear disc. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the front sprocket, see what it weighs. Looks like we're at 10.2 ounces. And here is the new super light front sprocket, which definitely feels lighter. 7.3, so just shy of 3 ounces of weight savings there. Okay, let's go with the rear sprocket now. So here is that rear sprocket, and we are going to include this little guard. It's not needed, so looks like we've got 1 pound, 14 ounces, quite heavy. And here is our new sprocket. That's gonna be much lighter. 1 pound, 6.6 ounces. And last but not least, rear disc. 1 pound, 12 ounces. And the new super light rear disc. 1 pound, 1.7. AF1 Racing, they did recommend getting the super light brand of rear sprocket and front sprocket. So I wanna kind of comment on the quality. The quality is really nice. I mean, the guys at AF1, they know Aprilias, right? So the quality is nice, the finish is nice on it, the packaging's nice. When you look at the front sprocket here, I mean, it almost looks like a jewel. So I've seen some other cheaper sprocket options out there, and they don't look as nice as this. So I'm really looking forward to trying these out. Same goes with the rear disc. You know, I have this same disc on my RSV4 and haven't had any issues with it so far. As far as disassembly goes, you know, getting to this stage of changing the sprockets and the rear disc, super simple. I think the only thing I would mention is make sure that before you pull your quick shifter, make sure that you mark it so you know the orientation when you go to reassemble this. So make a mark on the quick shifter arm and then make a mark on the shaft as well. In my case, I did 2 just to make it a little bit more clear when I put this back. But other than that, super easy to get it apart. I mean, even with recording, it probably only took me 30 minutes to get to this stage. Okay, before we start the reassembly process, I wanna point out another quality issue that I just noticed with this Aprilia. Look at the finish towards the center of the barrel of the wheel. Look at how dry that is compared to the outside here. You know what, let me move it into the sun, show you guys a little bit better. I mean, look at that. So that's what I'm talking about, you guys. With Aprilia makes some awesome bikes, but their quality control is just not good. Now I do have the factory service manual for these bikes, so I will be providing the torque specs in the description below, but let's go ahead and get this thing put back together so we can take it out for a ride to see if we made it better or we made it worse. Okay guys, so we got it all back together. Everything's torqued down to spec. Again, I'll put those torque specs in the description below. The chain is adjusted properly, so let's go ahead and take a look. I think it looks pretty good. And there it is. You could see that carbon that we just installed not too long ago. This is all maxi carbon. It did require some fitting, but not too bad. You can see all the gaps are really nice on there. Even this exhaust piece, which is a pretty complicated piece to make, so I was surprised when it fit really good. You can see a little wide up here, but overall pretty nice fitting piece. You can see that lightweight brake rotor is kind of a cool look. Let me step back. And I really like the super light sprocket. It's got this black look to it, so it has this nice kind of, I don't know what finish this is, but it's a nice deep kind of rich black. And I didn't think that I would really notice it that much. Like, I didn't think it would make too much of a visual impact, but actually it does. It looks really nice with that black sprocket. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing off the stand. Let's take it for a ride and see if we made any improvement here. Okay, folks, so 16-tooth sprocket in the front and 45-tooth in the rear. I want to do a little bit of just around town riding before we get onto the more open river road. I just want to see what the mannerisms are like just for normal riding around town, kind of situations that one would run into quite often of just using this bike for a commuter, which is what I'm using this particular bike for. But immediately I can tell it masks that dip in power right around 5,000 to 6,500 RPM. It's not near as noticeable. Actually, I don't really notice it at all anymore, which is pretty surprising because this particular gear change on a Tuono 660 factory is not much of a change. It's a pretty small step towards a shorter gear ratio, but see right there, just rolling on the power, it's actually much better. I'm surprised how much better that is. Before the gear change, it was really sluggish when you would try to do something like that, when you'd have it in too high of a gear and try to just put on 8 to 12 miles per hour, maybe to just get around a car or make a yellow light or something like that. When you would lean on it, you'd almost get no response, but this is much better. Okay, so right there in second gear, I felt that little bit of dip in power, but it is better. What's weird is in taller gears, in the higher gears, I mean, that dip is not as noticeable. You would think it would be the opposite. You would think it would be less noticeable in the lower gears and more noticeable in the taller gears, but it seems like it's the opposite for me. What's really crazy is it seems like the quick shifter works much better now. One of my biggest complaints about this bike is the quick shifter. It's probably the worst quick shifter I've ever felt. It's even worse than my old Husqvarna, which that one was also pretty bad, but a little bit strange because my RSP4 has a really good quick shifter. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, a lot more torque. Let me roll that on again. That wasn't even full throttle. Oh yeah, you have a lot more torque, but it does rip through the gears a lot quicker. Before, for the front end to come up, I would pretty much have to chop the throttle or pull back on the handlebars, kind of like, you know, bounce the front end a little bit. But now, as you guys just saw, that front end wants to come up a lot more effortlessly. Yeah, the quick shifter works. I think going down it's about the same, but going up is definitely better. Let's try it again. Oh yeah, it's better for sure. So yeah, it's got to be that now the engine is exerting more torque because of that shorter gear ratio. That has to be the reason why, because I didn't make any adjustments to the quick shifter. When I removed the arm, I made sure to put it back exactly where it was before. But this is much better. I'm quite surprised. Some of it too could also be that we've lost some of that rotational weight there, so it's giving a little bit snappier throttle response. It just seems a lot more lively. Oh yeah, engine's way more lively. But see, if you guys look at the tack and kind of just in normal riding situations, you spend a lot of your time right around 5,000 RPM with this bike, so you are right in that dead spot all the time, which was really annoying. This motor, even when it's in its power band, it's not super lively. When I first got this bike, I was a little bit disappointed with the engine. I would have thought, you know, a little 100 horsepower twin, it would feel a little more lively. It would feel a little more eager to rev, to accelerate, but it just doesn't. I mean, I'm not knocking the engine. It's not a bad engine, but I think maybe I have my expectations in the wrong place, maybe.
actually feels like a different bike now. It feels like an actual performance bike. It doesn't feel like, you know, some commuter bike, which is engine wise, that's kind of how this bike felt before. It just didn't feel very exciting. It not a slow bike by any means, but it just didn't feel, it kind of felt like the new Panigale AV2. It's nice, it's a good bike, but it just doesn't really feel like a performance machine. This one, with this gear change, now it's definitely changed the characteristics of it. Let's see if we can hop on the freeway here. What I really like now is the acceleration, just at part throttle, is a lot more effortless. You can kind of just accelerate and move forward, and it doesn't feel like I'm having to overexert myself. Let's see where the RPM's at cruising speed. So here in California, as you guys can see, you know, over 80 miles an hour. Pretty much everybody's driving 80. I'm actually getting ready to get passed here on my left by a Sienna van. Yeah, so I mean, normal cruising speed here, easily 80 miles per hour. This Sienna van's leaving me in the dust already, but if you look here, 85 miles per hour, we're at 6,600 RPM, so that's about 300 RPM higher than what it was before this gear change. What I do notice though, something that's one negative thing that I noticed, that's kind of a big negative thing, is now I get a lot more vibration coming through the pedals at that cruising speed. So right here at 80, it's not bad, it's tolerable, but if I step it up to 85, yeah, the vibration is very pronounced. So if you've never ridden a RS660 or a Tuono 660, the vibration coming through the pegs is very, very severe. I mean, it's really bad, and now it's worse. So let me step it up to 90. Yeah, I mean, at 90, the vibration is, and let me set the cruise control. Yeah, the vibration is pretty, I wouldn't say it's unbearable, but I don't know if I'm gonna like that for long rides. And I actually have little rubber pads on my foot pegs to try to isolate myself from that vibration, but it is a lot worse now on the freeway. So that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks, because it's, for maneuvers like that, it's way better. It's night and day, but that vibration is horrible. All right, let's jump off here. Let's do a little bit more street riding real quick. Yeah, quick shifter noticeably better. Okay. Yeah, notice, so in town, this setup is the way to go. This is way better. I mean, I don't even, on an RS660 or a base Tuono with the taller 1743 gear ratio, I couldn't even imagine driving that around town. It's gotta be just way too tall of a gear. 1643 that's on the Tuono factory is not bad. It's I think it's a nice medium. I think honestly, it's gonna take me a little bit of time to kind of, you know, come to a final conclusion, but I think my initial thoughts are, if you're mostly on the street, this is a good setup. 1645 is what I would run if I'm mostly on the street. If you do long highway runs, or sometimes do long highway runs, I probably would go with 1643, which is again, that's the stock Tuono factory gear ratio. But yeah, around town, it's too bad. I really like this setup for around town, but if I ever need to take this bike out of town, I think the vibration's gonna just be too much. So anyways, guys, we'll see what happens. But if you feel like you've gotten anything out of today's video, please please subscribe. Check me out on Instagram. Check out the coupon codes and affiliate links down below. And until next time, guys, we will see you on the next one.